What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I saw a headline and I wanted to hop on real quick and just vent some thoughts out. And the headline was around the fact that France didn't care what Niger wanted, that the Nigerian president Bazoum was ousted in a coup, and now the coup plotters or the junta or the current leaders of the country want the French ambassador out of their country. Now, there's more involved in this, but the French are basically saying more or less that these coup plotters do not have any real authority. So because they have no real authority, they don't have the capacity to remove the French ambassador. And France is basically telling the coup plotters that our ambassador is going to remain in your country whether you like it or not. Now, the former president Bazoum, whether he is legitimate or illegitimate at this point, is almost irrelevant. The true point is he is incapacitated and not making the rules in Niger. And he's being held captive most likely by the coup plotters. But what caught me off guard was just the blatant disrespect of the French towards the Nigerians. So, my whole issue with this whole coup in Niger is not the energy behind it, but the counterproductiveness of it all, right? I've seen way too many case studies on how this stuff ends, and it's usually not for the development or the benefit of people, regardless of what they may presume. It's barely rare that you just go around overthrowing Democrat. I'm not going to say democratically elected, but go around overthrowing governments, and it automatically goes into a golden age for a society in that result. Usually, the golden age is led by Renaissance, cultural resurgence, enlightenment, so to speak, not necessarily at the end of the muscle per se. Nevertheless, I never was against the energy. I don't like the flags. I'm seeing people wave Russian flags, North Korean flags in Nigeria. I don't understand that. That's goofy to me. But I can respect the fact that the people want to rule themselves. I just think the way they're going about it right now may be counterproductive. Just my opinion, nothing more. But one thing that I do agree is that the people of Niger should be the writers of their history, and may they deal with the consequences and benefit of doing such. A lot of people used to talk about hate and racism. And to me, hate is not the kicker. I imagine, I always remember the Dallas Cowboys used to beat the Buffalo Bills in the 90s. Just because the Dallas Cowboys were that good, or the Jordan Bulls always beating people, and, the Charles Barkley Suns, the Patrick Ewing Knicks. You imagine these teams all hating the Jordan Bulls. You can hate, but still respect. You can hate, but still respect. So it's not the hate that I think is the major sticking point in life. I think, and whether this is the horrendous violence you may see casually from robbing people and killing them over their car, or what the infamous quirk of stepping on somebody's shoes and it escalated into a shooting. What's behind that is the disrespect, and it's an act, but behind that act is a disrespect. And I think maybe from our primitive stage, like, our respect is kind of probably one of the most important things to us, and because it's invisible, more or less, it's not a hard metric. It's very subjective, but a lot of that is one how we see ourselves. But on a conversely, is how we validate that through our experience in the world. And respect, I think, goes to us being a social animal, and whether we're able to get life partners or build friendships. If you're not respected, can you really survive as a human being? Especially in the prehistoric times of humanity. And maybe it's a hardwire in us that respect is highly valuable. And I think with racism, it's not so much about the hate of it all. And I think that's subjective and almost to a point irrelevant, right? There's a lot of people that have succeeded in spite of racism. But what the kicker is, whether it's racist or not racist, it may not even come from a racist point of view. But the kicker is the disrespect. Disrespect is not tolerable, especially at this level. This whole situation has led up to being disrespect. This goes back to the earlier coups of Mali, going back to how did they let the coup go down in Mali? How did they let the coup go down in Burkina Faso? And now it's all the way in Nigeria. I'm talking about they being ECOWAS. Why did ECOWAS immediately resort to violent threats instead of going in, negotiating, trying to figure out common bonds, even though ECOWAS has zero history of busting the grape? Their first retort to what went down in Niger was military threats, knowing they had no substantive standing on that. In no way, shape, or form. There was nothing intelligent about that. The largest, most powerful country in West Africa is Nigeria. The Hausa Fulanis of Nigeria cross over into Niger. These are kinsmanship. Nigerians work hard enough to keep their country united and strong together, let alone invading neighboring countries which have ethnic crossovers. And lastly, it's the disrespect of France now. Firstly, it was the disrespect of France, but it brings us back to the disrespect of France. All France had to do was say, okay, we're going to take our guy out until we can come to a more beneficial settlement, right? But this is another spit in the eye. This is what the Nigerians are complaining about, the lack of respect. And I hope ECOWAS come out and say, no matter what happens with all this, we respect the sovereign integrity of our neighbors. And if they do not want ambassadors in their countries, they shouldn't have it. And they won't be manipulated to do somebody else's bidding to impose the leadership on that country. But ECOWAS this is a great time for them to come together, do something beneficial to their bloc, endure those consequences as a bloc to build that community which they should have, being neighbors, and not let themselves be divided. Because at the end of the day, a strong Niger is a strong West Africa. It sits at the crossroads of West Africa. It sits at Lake Chad. So you can't say that. And you can see that now with so many people, foreigners complaining because it's such a logistic center to what they're doing in the Sahel. So we're going to watch how this play out. But just the disrespect from France, they refuse to learn a lesson. But it goes back to the only language that is universal. It's not English, but it is power and authority. Because it is France disrespecting Nigeria. And where do they get this disrespect from? Because they think Niger cannot touch them. And that's where the disrespect comes from. But this is really my thoughts. I love to hear what you guys have to say. Please comment below. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.